Hi, I'm Kay Eck, and welcome to my podcast, Alive and Kicking, Stories of Waking Up. So welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I have with me today my good friend, Christi Cousin. Christi is the whip smartest, sassiest, wisest woman that I have the privilege of knowing. I'm so excited to talk to you today, Christi, because I just think you're interesting, and of course you're always fun, and I think this is going to be a fun hour, so welcome.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here, and I loved you, Kay, and you're always a blast, so this is really interesting.
So here we go. Like, I've known you for, I don't know, it's been quite a while. It's been 4 or 5 years or something like that.
2017? So
2017?
three?
Is that 3 years? Three and a half? But we've taken some incredible trips together, some wild and crazy journeys. So that makes it, that adds years. It's like trip years.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome. Thanks for being here. And so let's get started. All right.
Sounds good.
So I forgot to mention that you are a New Orleans girl. And so tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
So growing up in New Orleans, I feel like when a place has a lot of culture, it's kind of put into a bit of a bubble, a little sheltered. So I grew up a bit sheltered in the bubble, but it's really your typical, there's Catholicism everywhere. I went to a Baptist elementary school, and I was born on Halloween. So they told me, they're like, do you believe in Halloween? And I said, yeah, I do. They're like, you believe in the devil. So I had that kind of stuff growing up. And then I went to Catholic school, and there's just a lot of religion, I guess, around the area and the culture. So that was interesting to deal with. But through it all, I had a very tight-knit relationship with God as a child, where I would pray every night and just really tap into that energy. So, but New Orleans it's fun. It's very interesting, the culture, the people, and there's a lot of psychic energy in New Orleans as well. A lot of ley lines. We have the Mississippi River and Lake Pontchartrain. There's just a lot of energy. So it's been eventful.
Well, before we dive into that a little bit further, I think you know that the purpose of this podcast is to talk about our, individual stories of waking up. And so that word awakening, I'm wondering what it means to you.
Awakening is just, for me, just waking up to see that we are connected to source. Like, we're never separate. And for me, do you want me to go into my awakening journey?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So it first started, I was pretty rigid in my beliefs, and I thought that people who dealt with energy and things like that were just woo-woo and weird. But when I got to law school, so when I was about 25, when I was in law school, there was so much turmoil in school where everyone's trying to make you fail, and everyone's trying to start rumors about you, and you really had to find a sense of self. So I was checking my horoscopes every single day, just trying to have some sense of control. But I found the birth chart, and then I got majorly into astrology, and that saved my life 100% in law school. So knowing myself through the birth chart saved my life. And then second year of law school, I had different trials and tribulations with mock trial and people having adverse forces in that. And then that got me into Feng Shui. And in my last year of law school, when I was doing the criminal defense program, like a clinic, it was 2011, 2012, when astrology and spirituality merged for me. It was like Christmas break in my last semester. And I realized that something big was happening. And when 2012 happened, psychic abilities, intuition, precognitive dreams, deja vu, all these things and energies and entities, where I was seeing all this stuff, and I thought I was going crazy. So I started reading more books about that. So got into shamanism, then I got into energy, and then spirituality with spirit guides and source and the nature of things and how things work. So, but that was just a base that I didn't realize was being laid for me. Then when I was trying to pass the bar exam, I had a new boyfriend, we were serious. And when I got into studying, I was just all over the place. And I hated the fact that my boyfriend could say something and just knock me off. Like my whole day would be ruined, or my family could say something and my month would be ruined. And so I was in the shower one day while I was studying for the bar exam, which took me 2 years to pass the bar exam. So it was 4 attempts, but by the 4th time I got it. But on the 2nd attempt, I said, when I was in the shower, I said, God, show me something. I said, I can't live like this anymore. I cannot keep getting swept away in my emotions and being so affected by what's outside of me. And after I got the shower, I started studying again. And then I checked my email and I saw an article from Ohm Times, and it was Paul Selig's books. I immediately ordered the books. And after reading those, my life changed. And then I go to a workshop, I meet Janine, and then she introduces me to the Diamond Group. And here we are today. And
I didn't know that you came through that route. Well, and also I just want to say that it's got to be pretty unusual that law school would trigger a spiritual awakening. Like that just doesn't seem like the usual path.
Yeah. I mean, I guess any kind of thing that makes you go deep within, it could be mental rigorous workouts or physical something, just anything that creates a crack for an opening. That's what it was. And law school was mine. But I'm so grateful because I loved law school and I loved the journey that got me to where I am today. And it was so perfect and so beautiful. And that awful relationship that I had while I was trying to study for the bar exam, that was a major catalyst as well. So once I went on my spiritual awakening, I did this 4 corners journey where we went to the, Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico and Arizona. And that just made this massive opening. And then, like I said, I met Janine, and then we went to this group. And then Tunisia, all these, it's just been amplifying ever since. And it's just been so magical and amazing. But many dark nights of the soul happened in between. And those were key in going through this. So it's all initiations, but.
Well, if going back to your childhood, I guess like the stage had been set for some sort of relationship with some sort of higher power, but were you experiencing some of those, kind of mystical experiences as a child?
I had a knowing that there was never a doubt in my mind that there were other things behind the veil. And I don't know if it was because I loved Halloween. It was always my favorite holiday. And I don't know if it's because of my birthday or if it was because I just knew that there was a attention to these things that I knew existed all the time, but it was special attention to that on Halloween. Mm-hmm. So mystical was always in the background. And I was told, like, don't worry about that. But there was something about that when I was around 9, 10, 11 were my most wise years, the wisest years. And I was into astronomy a lot at that time. And I had dreams where I walked outside and I looked at the sky. And in the dream, after 11 o'clock, everyone went to sleep. The government or whoever it was, no one could actually stay awake after 11. But in this dream, my dad and a family friend, we all, for some reason, didn't go to sleep. And we looked up at the sky and we saw the heavens and these Milky Way galaxy and all this stuff. And there's something about that dream that showed me like there's more than meets the eye. Mm-hmm. And so I still think about that dream all the time.
Wow. Yeah. I think we oftentimes as kids have these really incredibly mystic experiences, and we don't know we don't know what it is, so you kind of just like, I can remember sitting underneath some willow trees in a park as a child by myself, being completely content, and that was and being one with the universe. And that was definitely a mystical experience, but I just thought it was like, it's a great day in the park, like but it's funny. But give me a sense of how you fit in your family. Like, what was your sense of yourself as a child? And how did that compare to how your parents saw you or how your siblings saw you?
Well, I was definitely, I hate to use this term, but the black sheep of the family, because everyone in my family was very passive and not passive aggressive, and they wouldn't feel their emotions. It would just be violent explosions where they would try to repress. And for me, I don't have that filter. I still don't have that filter to where I can put something in and not say it. So I was really empathic as a kid. So I was feeling everyone's energies. It was very volatile. My house was like a hoarder's house growing up. It was just really chaotic. And I also have to note that New Orleans is an amazing place. We lived in the suburbs, but in the 1990s, I had a dream where I saw the devil on my street. Okay. And then shortly after that, there was a murder, where the guy across the street murdered his 2 children and tried to kill his wife, like stabbed her a whole bunch of times.
Oh my
And
God.
then a guy down the street hung himself in his garage. And then the guy on the other side of the street, not at his house, but he was a fireman, and he basically murdered his wife by setting her on fire at their family home. And then on the street over, someone else like killed himself in the garage. So there was like a weird 90s thing happening. It was really weird. So there was like, I don't know if we were like on Indian burial ground because it had just been developed back in the 80s or the 90s. Yeah. So it was a strange place.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's that energy around my house. And so there's a lot of chaotic energy, but I also was not like my family. I was very emotional. I would speak if I felt something, I would speak it. And they were always like, stop, you're too intense. Even if as a child, they said, you're too intense, just relax. And I couldn't, because I just felt like it was very explosive growing up. And I was also very loving, and like my family, they're affectionate and loving, but it was conditional, always, 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 always. And so there's that caveat. But yeah, I think it was good for me to see that side of it, so I could be able to be a bridge to understand how people are, because it's the exact opposite of how I express.
Yeah. Well, so how would your parents, other than being intense, how would they view you?
I mean, tense is probably the best word. Like, so when I was about,
Did they see you as a black sheep?
yes, everyone. I mean, I did my own thing. My mom said that I was dressing myself by the time I was 2, and when I was 6, I was doing my own hair and doing my own lunch. And I remember feeling bad because I never let my mom do my hair when I was 7. I go, Mom, you can do my hair. And then I was like, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing it like that? And she was like, I'm sorry. I was like, give me the brush. So I felt bad because I was like a little like 40-year-old in a like 6-year-old's body. And that must have been tough for them as well. So I acknowledged that I wasn't the easiest kid. But I didn't have a lot of mystical experiences in the sense of the way I do today. I didn't have that. It's not like I had a natural clairvoyance or anything like that. But my family did see me as odd and different. And my grandmother, who is a saint and who loves me with everything, I was at a party for a cousin or something, and they were like, man, you're so like sassy, we can call you Christine Elizabeth. And I was like, oh. And I was like, Grandma, that's so cool. So I loved it. I loved having that like sassy, independent, empowering kind of word. But
yeah. So your childhood was chaotic. What were some of the challenges of that?
Well, my parents would fight a lot. And so the challenges were, there was a fear of my parents getting divorced every day. And then just learning how to communicate without being volatile. So when I was growing up, confrontation always meant disrespect and anger and just projections. So it wasn't until I was, in law school that I learned how to confront something without having so much anger and volatile and just projections all the time. So that was something that I had to change. It was really deep within me. So there was that. And it was intense. It was like you never knew what you were going to get. Like, I don't know if my family was going to be super loving and supportive, or if they were going to just be completely cold or punishing for no reason. So it was a hot and cold place. But I'm telling you, I called my street like the demon street. Like, I don't know what was going on in there, but it was weird.
That's incredible. I was thinking that, you hear that your life prepares you for what you need in this moment or what you are to become. So how do you think your life has prepared you?
I think that it's helped me to see life from the extreme volatile. So it's easy to help people who aren't going through intense psychological mind games with family or friends or a relationship. But I think this has prepared me to help people who've really been through sustained traumatic or chaotic experiences, and to see that, especially with the mystical part, like I told you how I had dreams when I was little about, negative entities in my house and just things on the street. And but the land itself, I think that's helped me to realize that not everything we can see that's affecting us. So I feel like it was about merging the mystical, and then with going through law school, being able to understand things just from a legal standpoint and categorically, to be able to categorize things and encode them. But I feel like the person who I would help, or the people that I would help, are the people who didn't fit in their family, and who had a light that was dimmed. And so I feel like that could be everybody, honestly, just people who really weren't supported, and who is told that they're wrong or bad, or they're nothing special, because everybody's special. And that's, yeah. So basically, if your family's crazy, then
yeah,
I did.
so when you say helping people, does that mean just like in your daily life, or as a career, or how does that both?
Definitely both. And I think that I didn't really consider a career in helping people until after law school, when all of this massive stuff came up, and I would talk to different people, and they would tell me, or even in law school, they would tell me how much just me being positive and seeing their gifts, how it helped them. And I think that people really just need to be seen, because I wasn't seen as a kid, and I thought like all my gifts and talents were just normal and everyone had them. And it wasn't until I was older that people were like, whoa, that's not normal. And so I naturally just see other people's gifts and want to show them that. I feel like if we acknowledge each other's beauty, gifts, and talents, then I mean, this whole world could just flower overnight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I do it with the law, and just in speaking to people, and just trying to be as conscious as possible, because just right now, you being you're literally helping people by just embodying your consciousness. And so I think that just bringing that consciousness and that mindfulness to whatever we do is helping in that respect.
Yeah. Was that awakening that you had in law school, was that frightening for you in any way? Like, you said you thought you were losing your mind. That must have been frightening.
Yeah. I thought I was, yeah, that was in 2012. I thought I was losing my mind, because it was so unknown to me. But I had such a great friend network that who were in law school. So I knew that they were logical. I knew that they were smart. They're top of the class. And my friends would tell me like, no, because they'd had my best friend, one of my best friends, Froz, he would tell me that he would have mystical experiences too, and he could confirm what I was going through was legitimate and it wasn't just in my mind. And he could like reiterated that I am logical and that I wasn't crazy. So yeah.
Well,
I mean,
one of the things that I find so interesting about your path has been your ability to marry the mystical and the logical. And that just, to a lot of people, it seems like it's got to be one or the other. You're either like super spiritual or you're super logical, and you believe in science, and these are the things that you believe in over here. So how have you been able to marry that? And have you bumped up against, people who don't share your ability to see both sides?
I've definitely encountered people who are intimidated by one or the other, I guess. But the fact that I learned astrology at the exact same time as I learned the law, and I was able to see how similar they were. So during the day, I would do law, and then at night, I would do astrology law. It's the same thing. It's categorically, it's the same thing. And they both have different, similar concepts in it. So that to me was just evidence that it's the same exact thing. And I find that being able to just embody that, just knowing about it and talking to people and being able to use different language for different people makes it easier for people to digest. And when you talk about the mystical especially in New Orleans, there's a very strong Catholic ground, overlay with everything. So when you talk about astrology, there's immediately a hesitance or a wall. But I find that the people I talk to down here are so there's obviously a quickening happening, because people are so much more open than they have been in the past. When I first was in law school, my whole family was like, oh, quit talking about the sun, moon, and the stars, you crazy. And then I remember 3 years later, my mom was like, so Miss Pam was talking about astrology, and I was like, I told you that 3 years ago. She's like, well, when Pam says it. And I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
You got that.
I think a lot of us, that you would consider maybe to be a little bit in the forefront, are like waiting for our families to be like, yeah, Mom, I really see that. Or like,
yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen, but
yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen.
Saying that, like, it's, it's definitely, the people in your family are the last people that you're supposed to wake up.
I ain't trying to wake them up. They can sleep as long as they want,
Yeah.
because that's what I learned. I think we all encountered that on the path, where we really want to wake up the people we love the
Yeah.
most.
Yeah.
And then we just have to give it up and
Yeah.
say,
That's not how it works.
I learned
So
that the hard way.
I'm interested in what you said about the similarities between mysticism and law. And so what it's making me think is that are you saying that a universal, there's a universal law that informs both of them,
Yes.
in various ways?
I think that we see externally things that exist internally, in the sense of when you look at the universe and you have something that looks like an actual eyeball, right? And that's huge and like on a massive scale, but it's also very small within us. I feel like that's the same thing with the law. So I remember to file a lawsuit, you would have to file a petition, and in the petition you would have to have, in Louisiana, or complaint in federal court, you'd have to have certain things in it, and if you missed one of them, it got rejected and you have to do it again. And if you think about like Merlin and casting a spell or doing something, you would have to have the proper invocation and the tonality. And if you didn't do it correctly, then the spell wouldn't work. So there's like an element of mysticism and law. Like I have to jump through all those hoops to file this this petition properly. And if I want to invoke something or manifest, I would have to do the proper invocation as well. So I saw that immediately, and it just made it more magical to do this. And obviously, as an attorney or lawyer field, you're helping people. You're advocating for people who don't have a voice or who don't have the knowledge to be able to defend themselves or help themselves. And so I love that aspect of it. And that's what it's all about, is helping yourself, other people, through whether it's mysticism or law. But it's just the same thing. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in your family, do you still have basically the same role that you did as a child, like more or less the pot stirrer?
Yes. So it's become, I noticed a big trend as we were going into 2020. It was almost like all of us went through this squeeze, like this tunnel where everything was just, if it's not authentic to you, it's got to come up. And if you don't face it, or you can either try to hold on to it and be miserable, or you let it go and you just go into more your authentic self. So a lot of polarization. So now it's even more so where I'm speaking the truth and they don't want to hear it. So I was telling you about my family going through a lot of stuff, and they can't even be around me right now because they're so stuck in the stories and the toxicity and the drama of the old days that aren't even real. They're just made up in their minds. So yeah, I still play that, but now I just pray for them from afar, because it's really polarized.
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like what's happening and how you're using your, your spiritual gifts or whatever to cope with that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, not to get too in it, but like I said, my older brother was the light of the family. He was the golden son, and we all put him on a pedestal growing up because he was super, super intelligent, was fixing computers since he was 12, and just this amazing, charismatic, wonderful individual. He's so funny. But he is a major drug addict, alcoholic, and a confirmed sociopath. And he's taken a really downward turn. And so he's kind of rallied my whole family into these legal proceedings against his ex-wife, and he's just not right. And so my parents are riddled with guilt, and they don't want to see that he's basically just won't take responsibility for his actions. For 38 years, he's never had a consequence, that's just a recipe for disaster. And we know that facing adversity gives us strength and compassion, and it makes us have good character as a human. So he's never had that, and they're still trying to shield him from hitting rock bottom. And now they have literally because my brother can't control me. As a sociopath, they try to manipulate people, and if they can't manipulate you, you're nothing to them. And so he's kind of wrote my whole family into that. And I've been disinvited to Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like they don't even speak to me, basically. I work for my father, so we would have to talk for employment reasons, for doing legal cases. But now it's hitting ahead, and that just tells me that the whole collective is really going through it right now. So the way that I used to be the mediator. I would mediate my parents' relationships, their romantic relationship. I would mediate if there was any kind of misunderstanding or problem within the family unit. I would always do that. But now, because it's so polarized, and the truth is that my brother has to have his consequences and they won't give it to him, they're still trying to project it in all these places, and they're trying to use legal cases to it just make things crazier. But the truth of the matter is that they just need to face what's there. And so the way I deal with it now is to just allow them to, I guess, shun me or cut me off, and just pray for them from afar, because I know that I'm seeing this because it's happening everywhere. Yeah. So if anyone's going through this as well, just know that it's coming up to get cleared. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, I think I really want to thank you for sharing that with us, because I know it's not easy to do that. But I think pretty much everybody has, some kind of difficulty in their life that is super challenging right now. And I want to talk a little bit about how this spiritual path, it's not really meant to make things easier. That's not the way it goes. But, but you do have some tools to deal with it. And so what tools are valuable to you?
Compassion is number one. Number one is definitely compassion, and having compassion with yourself. So if you feel anger, growing up, I've had a lot of fire in my body, a lot of anger, a lot of just ready to go. Some people are a little more meek. Mine was just too much. So I think being compassionate with yourself, it's okay to feel anger. It's okay to feel fear. It's okay to get jealous, or it's okay to feel unworthy or insecure. And just having that compassion is the catalyst and the foundation for really being able to be with whatever. I think that the spiritual journey does make things easier, in the sense of we learn how to deal with things better, but we're constantly getting pushed out of our comfort zone. So that's uncomfortable, but it's part of the process. But I think that really, when you have an emotion come up, being with it and saying, why do I feel this? What is this? What am I uncomfortable about? Am I making this about me? Do I feel like this means I'm not good enough? And that's usually where it goes down to, is that I feel unworthy because of this, or I feel like I'm not good enough, or I feel like something should be differently. And just asking those questions, and then saying, but is that real? And then just being really compassionate with yourself, and not saying, oh, you shouldn't feel that. You shouldn't do it. The whole word should needs to leave. That's what I've gotten rid of, is the whole should. And just really trying to see people for where they're at. Everybody is going through some sort of trauma and emotional disturbance. Everybody. So when you are driving and someone's being crazy, instead of getting road rage, I would just be like, well, I'm sure that someone's child has cancer and they're trying to rush to the hospital, or maybe someone just broke up with someone, or maybe their family died, someone in their family died or something, and that has really helped me in the road and that situation. But even in general, where someone's being mean to me or just rude, well, that person's probably got issues. But I also find it important too, that when someone is rude to you in a face-to-face situation, especially in the legal field in New Orleans and Louisiana, the attorneys can be very big bullies and be really rude and just unprofessional. So I think that it's important, when someone meets you there, you say, okay, that's not okay. You're being rude, and I'm not doing that to you. Could you please not do that to me? And just meet the energy. Whether or not they abide by it doesn't matter. You're just meeting that energy with that love for yourself. So having compassion for yourself, love for yourself, and just really being gentle, because this stuff is so intense. What's happening in the world, I feel like, is unprecedented and is so intense for every being right now. Yeah. So that's what's definitely happening.
I mean, I think that if a fire-breathing dragon like you can bring back the heat and go gentle, within, it's within the realm of anybody.
Oh, exactly. I was crazy. I just had to explain people were like, she crazy. And I never thought I could do it, but it's the only way I was able to not have a charge. Like I tell my boyfriend now how crazy I was, my ex-boyfriend, he's like, I never believe you, but I could never see that now because it's so, I've transmuted so much of it. And it was just about self-defense mechanisms and ways that I viewed myself and feel like I had to protect myself. And when you're more vulnerable with yourself, there's actually more strength. When I say to an attorney, I made a mistake, and like when he's accusing me of something, like I didn't do that. This was an honest mistake, and I don't appreciate you saying that, and that's rude. That's not nice. I sound like a little like twerp, but I mean it's basically it comes back to like I'm vulnerable, but I'm also way more empowered in that moment than the other person is, right? So
yeah, wow.
Vulnerable.
And have you seen that cause a change in the other people's behavior?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. First off, everyone's got this big ego. So they're like, if someone's saying like, yeah, I did make a mistake, but that's not okay to be mean to me. They're like, how do I?
What just happened?
Yeah, that's weird. But it's just about being authentic and like loving myself. And when I go up against an attorney, there's just love there. I'm trying to do everything I do with love. And so that every word I speak, every word I write is just encoded in love and all my actions. So it's just keep coming back to that.
And that's really powerful when you're out there in the world where, you know, there's not a lot of love in those places, those courtrooms. And, you know, it's like intentionally confrontational. So yeah, bringing the love there is like, you know, pretty incredible. So do you have, or did you have as a child, a sense of purpose or a knowing of what your mission was here?
I think that when I was a little kid, I was about like 7, I had a laboratory in my closet, and I used to go take samples of like bugs and put them in a coat cap, put saran wrap over it, and look under a microscope. And I was always curious about how the world works. I remember putting a slug in a match book or whatever box, and next morning I was like, let me go to my laboratory and check out the slug, and it was on the top of it, and it was just like open a little bit. I was like, how did that big old fat slug? And so I was just wondering about how the structure of living things, the structure of the universe, and how everything worked. That was always my thing. So I loved animals. I read books about animals and different everything all the time. So that was something big to me. So I thought I was going to be a marine biologist, but it does work with the nature of the universe and how everything works and how everything comes together. And I feel that's my main purpose, is to understand how everything fits together. I've always seen patterns in my family, patterns in, if this happens, then this happens. Like silly things that people would think like, you're crazy. Like when there's a synchronicity, and like, I had one of the biggest synchronicities I was in law school, and I was in just absolute devotion to service to these people in the criminal court system in New Orleans who didn't have a voice. And I got really passionate about speaking for them and doing whatever I could for them. So there was one day I come out of school, and I was talking to my friend, and I see a crow, and it's hopping around, and it looks like its wing's broken. And I said, what's it doing? And my friend said, oh, it looks like it has a broken wing. And one of my other friends comes and said, oh, look at that crow with the broken wing. And I said, they're like, oh, man, might as well put it out of its misery. And I said, no. I said, crows are really smart. I'm sure that crow is going to be fine. And I had to go to the jail to go visit one of my clients. So I had to go home and change, because you have to have like jeans and you can't have flip-flops. So I go home, and I was thinking, like, there was a new Keith Urban song that I heard was out that I hadn't heard yet, but I was excited to hear. So I get home, and I'm on my way to the courthouse, and they're like, oh, we're going to play the new Keith Urban song. And I was like, oh, good. I've been wanting to hear this. And the song was, you could be a black bird with a broken wing, scared of the rain, scared to sing, and something like that. And then it was like, you could be a songbird from New Orleans. Keith Urban's Australian. And
oh my God.
And it was literally the most massive synchronicity I'd ever had. And I knew that meant something. So I immediately emailed my mom when I got home and told her that. So I have it documented, the whole thing, and how it like sent this shockwave in my body. So being in service, that's what opened me up to this higher energy, and to see how there are so many there's so much connectivity that we just write off every day. Even me still, like it's important when we recognize the signs and the symbols and the synchronicities, we can see the connectivity of everything. So that's my journey in a million words.
Wow. Wow. So how does your purpose translate to service? Like, I mean, actually what you're doing.
Right now, I think that, I mean, I'm in service when I go to the courthouse. I feel like I'm meant to bring that energy into the court. But my best friend and I are actually starting a company called Laurel Street. And we love candles, we love rituals, and we want to bring, and we're also best friends. We're just so loving and we support each other. And it's about, you know, and we have that, like the divine feminine coming together and women supporting women and just people supporting people. So we bring that, our friendship, our love and our friendship through the candles, and we set the intention that healing and love and high vibrational, high consciousness are infused in this candle, so that when you light it, you're not just lighting a non-toxic candle, you're really setting a grid in your home or wherever it is for love and peace and healing to be facilitated, to occur. And that's how we're doing that now. But I'm also writing children's books and trying to get that out there and just to really express myself so that people, and I do astrology on the side, but just so that people, just expressing and doing everything that, and when I come into contact with someone, I'm in service to them. If I have a meeting with another person, just sending them love, because that's what we need right now, just being in service all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's really awesome. And I can't wait for the candles to come out, because I've said many, many times, if there's one thing that I don't think I could give up, it's candles.
Yeah, same.
Candles are everything to me. Yeah, they're everything to me. So yay, I can't wait. When are the candles going to be available?
We're hoping for April, May. It's possible to have them sooner, but we're still in the manufacturing phase right now and getting all of everything tweaked out. So yeah, but that'll be, so we're gonna have a line. We're gonna do intentional candles first. That'll be our first line, and then we'll go into different things after that.
I love that. That's really, really awesome. All right, so are you ready for our lightning round?
Yes.
Okay. Christi Cousin, what are your gifts, and have you gotten any new ones lately?
My gifts are I think one of my gifts is to see people's gifts, to see other people's gifts. It's one of my gifts. And I think that just to be able to bring all, like, see the connectivity in things. I'm also very intuitive, kind of psychic. I dream every single night. So that's one of those things. And the new gift that I am seeing now is just more able to be present and just to be in peace. Hold space for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling that too. Like the presence is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also having more experiences with levitation, which I hesitate to like.
Amazing. I love that.
But yeah, that's a thing. Okay. Do you believe in time?
I believe that, like all of us, like time is a construct, but I think it exists because we make it exist. I don't know enough about time and space, but I believe there's a time and space for time and space.
Okay. What's your favorite place on planet Earth?
I don't know. That's one of my most favorite places is, I mean, Costa Rica, definitely, but Tunisia, like we went together. That was so magical and amazing. That was something otherworldly.
Yes.
So,
do you sometimes think that maybe it wasn't quite as special as we made it?
I don't know. It was magical. I think all of us being there also made it so much more incredible. But that was like, I can't express how, that was one of the most incredible adventures I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, I felt like I was high the entire time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Just
like really, really high.
Agreed.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's incredible. I would be interested to like maybe go back. Did you ever go back?
I didn't, no.
I would be interested to go back and see, if it was just like, oh, that like particular point in our journey was just like, whoa. Yeah. Okay. If you could bilocate, what would you do with that power?
What would I do with that? I guess just go to places that I would like to go to. I don't know how if I could use that or see family members or like see friends and people that I
Yeah.
don't know. Probably just go to anchor energies in different places.
This is one of the things that I've always been curious about bilocation is that I could never figure out like, what do you do with that? Like, what's the value? And so until I can figure out what the value is, I'm sure I'm not going to be able to do it, But
You do it.
I have friends who have experienced like really strong bilocation experiences where they're like, suddenly in a completely different place, in both places at once. But it's like in and out. And
Yeah.
so it's almost like that, getting used to the idea of it and how it feels in the body. Yeah, because I don't know anybody who's doing it intentionally,
Yeah.
at will, and for what reason. So curious about that. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to talk or text?
Sometimes both. There's power in both of them.
At the same time?
Yeah. Just texting, talking. Like,
I'm wondering if you text as fast as you talk.
I don't.
No.
I'm just like, I'm not that slow. I'm not that slow. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I
funny.
do like to talk. Though. There's a lot of power in talking.
Yeah.
More.
Oh, yeah. The voice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, most importantly, final question. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
I am so plain vanilla. Just vanilla.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I was not expecting that. There's already too much flavor in your life.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Christy, this has been so much fun. But before we go, do you have a question for me?
Yes, I would like to ask you what you feel like your newest gifts and talents and abilities are that you're using right now.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for asking that. So I have recently come into a better, I think it's always been there, but it's my understanding of it. I've always had a super, like not superhuman, but very human experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't felt super multidimensional at all through my life. But recently I've started to understand more about how my field functions out in the greater expanse. And that has been, it has a stabilizing effect. So I'll get a lot of people tapping into my field to stabilize. So I always kind of felt that I was serving a purpose to help people in their journey, but now I'm understanding that like energetically, the energy of ascension is wobbly, it's like kind of disorienting sometimes. And my field, if people want to, they can tap there and stabilize. And then also there's like a really loving and accepting aspect to it, that it's like neutral. There's a neutrality to it. It's just like there.
I asked that because I can feel there was points where I feel like you were like blasting my energy field, and I was like, "Whoa, this is intense!" But like really, like it just felt like an energy activation, like very high vibrational. So it was something. I mean, I've been around you before, and like I love your energy. It's always been really powerful. But I feel like it's even more powerful now. So.
And part of the reason I started to understand it was because more and more people were like contacting me and saying, "Hey, I was like feeling your energy, or I was, tapping in, or whatever." So I started to like really start to feel into that and to yeah, get a handle on it. Because, I just never bothered to try and figure it out before. So
Do you feel like you have to like protect your energy, or do you lose energy when this happens, or?
I have recently experienced there being too many people in my field.
Yeah.
And also, if people are there wanting me to do their work for them,
Yeah.
that becomes a bit too much. But when we were in Shasta, John Eflin taught us this technique to bring the field in to kind of like, reset, rest. I think he called it like tight and bright. So you bring your field in and, realign with source and Gaia. And that technique has been super effective for me. So thank you, John. I don't think I ever mentioned to him how awesome that was for me. And then, but typically, no, I can just be wide open and not be too terribly impacted by it. I think like that's an important part of serving that function is you can't, and I've often seen this as a kind of a sign that maybe I wasn't quite very advanced because I didn't feel the energy so much, but now I'm seeing it a little differently.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So, well, I want to thank you so much for being with me today. It's been tons of fun. I have loved catching up with you, and I'm so excited to hear about all the things in your future. It sounds really awesome. So, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. It's been so much fun chatting with you.
And I just want to add that we'll put your contact information and anything else that you may want people to know in the liner notes. So if people want to check out your candles or contact you for a reading or just get in touch, then they can do that.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Kay.
Thank you.